application in September. I have started recording the meeting, so by participating, you agree to this recording. The intention is to share it only with people who are on the invite for this meeting, so you should be able to have an overview of who's getting it. And we will go into the way of working in the public-private partnerships. I'm going to do this part quickly because most of you have been through this before. So just a small reminder, this is a public-private partnership that we are developing, which means we need multiple partners collaborating in a cross-value chain collaboration, and we are mixing private sector contributions with subsidy. The goal is to work on pre-competitive technology and know-how and to translate, so to develop new fundamental insights, but also translate those to application. And it's open to both Dutch and international partners with a preference for Dutch partners where possible, or companies and organizations that have activities in the Netherlands or work together with Dutch companies. Typical project duration for these types of projects are between 2 and 4 years. The Dutch TKI subsidy will provide us 50% of the project. The other 50% comes from contributions from all of you, of which maximum half can be in kind. So we'll be scoping out what everyone's contribution is as we go. But we need a bare minimum of 25% cash for the project of the total budget. In-kind contributions are defined in discussion with you, materials, time spent, travel. Most of you have been through that before, but if that feels like a difficult topic for you or you want more clarity on it, please reach out to me. We can talk about that one-to-one. We're expecting cash contributions of between 30 and 40K for our large company partners. If you qualify as an SME, a small medium enterprise, MKB in Dutch, that contribution is negotiable and we can, again, have a dialogue. There's a difference for me between a one-person startup and a 200-person well-funded scale-up. So we will have to negotiate that on a case-by-case basis. Also, just to be clear about expectations, once the project is running, it's not just, hey, sit back and let it happen. We expect you to be involved. You are part of a project oversight committee, which has one representative of each partner and one representative of Wageningen. So it's not our project, Wageningen's project, it's our project collectively. That project committee is responsible for directing the project, also for developing protected IP if we decide we want to do that. So also that's not in the hands of one company or organization or Wageningen ourselves. That's a joint decision, and likewise dissemination. Super short summary of IP conditions. Ownership follows inventorship. If we decide to protect IP, so we have patents, partners all have the right to license that in their field of use. If you want an exclusive license, or if you actually want to take a patent out and be owner of the patent, we need to be able to document that you paid a fair market rate for that to ensure that we are in compliance with European state aid regulation. If that was all gibberish or that raised 15 other questions for you, again, reach out to me. I know I'm going through this quickly. But I go through it quickly because what you really want to hear is what are we thinking about in terms of the content? And for that, I will hand over to Ariette, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah, so we are here for combining ingredients for functional, cost-effective, sustainable European blends. If you go to the next slide, Stacey. It really resonates what you also say in the introduction. Now, plant-based products, meat replacers, dairy replacers, are often made with highly refined isolates. But if you go to less refined ingredients, they could be more cost-effective, have a low footprint, but yeah, their functional performance is not always good enough. And if you want to introduce new protein sources, but also other ingredients like side streams, there is that the introduction is often limited because you need to refine them to isolates. So what we would like to do in the project together with you is work on partial replacement of those highly refined isolates with less refined flours and concentrates, and to see how that works. So if you go to the next slide, Stacey, then our aim is indeed to find the knowledge rules for these kind of combinations. that on one hand, we have functionality maps of European protein crops, or maybe also other ingredients, from what is the functionality of those ingredients, and how to use them in combination with highly refined isolates to have good functionality. And can we do something with processing to improve the properties of those ingredients? And based on this knowledge, the intention is that you can implement the knowledge to increase the use of these less refined ingredients, have a much broader range of protein ingredients available, maybe also from local protein sources, and to make it also more sustainable, more cost effective.
So from the product development perspective, if you want to replace an ingredient in a formulation, you first need to understand the role of that ingredient in the final properties of your product. And in order to do that, we normally start with characterizing the techno functionalities of ingredient. Here we give an example of what we did in the previous project, plant meat methods, where we, for instance, characterize the ingredient from different phases of the extraction process, from rapeseed meal to defatted rapeseed meal, and then different way of getting to the rapeseed concentrate and in the end rapeseed isolate. Next, please. Of course, we are not the only one who are working on this. On literature, you will find a lot of examples of studies where people try to combine different fraction or the protein isolate with a concentrate, either fibers or starch. Next, please. And here also a couple more examples from the plant meat methods project, where we also combine rapeseed protein concentrate, for example, with starch and gluten in order to get to different fibrous textures. We also try to mix protein isolate with a defatted flour, and we was also succeeding to get the fibrous textures from the CSL technology. So this is just to give an example that we will not start from zero. We have already a lot of background knowledge from ourselves and also from state of the art from literatures. Next, please.
Yeah, but of course, you also know there are some challenges when you use non-refined ingredients. Some off flavors, bitter components, but also you often need a higher amount of protein. And there are other components available in these ingredients, which can be beneficial, but also could be a problem. So what we really would like is to combine ingredients to have the necessary formulations to have a certain functionality, and think about how we can improve that also by processing steps. If you go to the next slide, Stacey. Yeah, so this is really our approach. We think it is a combination of puzzle pieces where we work on the functionality of the ingredients, on processing routes to improve the properties, and then, very important, to combinations towards plant-based products. But first, of course, and that's the next slide, we have to select together with you the crops and ingredients, which are what is in scope and what is out scope, based on availability, on cost, on functionality. And it could be very broad. It could be pulses, cereals, oil seeds, side streams, nuts. That is really, together with you, make the long list or short list from crops or ingredients we want to include. And also what kind of highly functional ingredients we want to include and maybe not include in the project. And that selection is the basis for the work we foresee in 3 work packages. And I think that are the next 3 slides, where we first work on we work in this work package on a functionality map from the whole crop or the whole nut or the whole seed or the whole pulses to the enriched ingredients. And what Nam Phuong also say, really a systematic characterization of the functionality of these ingredients. on composition, but also on water holding, gelling properties, structure formation. And then in the next work package, we work on the processing. Can we apply dry fractionation? Can we improve functionality by mild heating or by separation technologies or drying? And especially this work package will result in a wide range of ingredients to be used by the two other work packages and on processing routes to improve properties. And then in this work package C, it comes together. So here we really want to develop knowledge rules, or what is sometimes called texture maps, on those combinations of ingredients, highly functional and less refined ingredients. And together with you also select some model products for that. For example, an emulsion type of product like a sausage, a burger type product, and maybe also a structured meat analog like what is mentioned, high moisture extrusion. And for these kind of applications, find these combinations. And then we hope together with you create results on those combinations in that functionality map, in the processing routes, and that combination maps, knowledge rules to really have which combinations can work for which applications. Together with you, we will continuously evaluate and discuss in project meetings and maybe also taste and evaluate. And maybe also part of it is really pre-competitive knowledge on these combinations, what can work and what cannot work.
And I see a question in the chat. Do we want to answer the question now?
Yeah, indeed, I see a question of Marco on the sustainability. Yeah, and I really think we also have together with you to define the boundary conditions or the evaluation criteria, which ingredients to include or not, which processes to include or not, that the sustainability is maybe also healthiness or other cost, I can imagine is also important. Because I can imagine that we also in the final proposal make a work package on evaluation and these kind of topics. And what we really have, Nam-Phong and myself, you can let us talk for hours on this, to share much more details. But Stacey asked to first give this first overview really short. So, but what we really would like to do in the coming months, shape it together with you. So that's also why we don't give now all the details, or we don't have it, because we want to develop it together with you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Ariette and Nam-Phong. So this is the moment when I think we open up the floor to discussion, and I will already tell you my goal or ambition is to have heard from everyone once. So be ready. But I think we can start with if there are any questions or anybody who's brave enough to jump in and comment as the first commenter, please do. Peter, thank you for raising your hand.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. The question in my mind is, let's say in the last work package, you're then combining the insights and do the formulating, and you mentioned a few examples, but they're all basically in the meat alternative space. Is that the scope you're focusing on, or are you thinking more broadly? I mean, could we also talk about an emulsion, or maybe looking at some others here or other applications? What's the view there?
Yeah, what we were thinking about plant-based alternatives for meat and dairy as first scoping, but that is also really up to you to discuss with you. Of course, unless you pay a lot of money, we can't select 10 or 20 model products. So it is good to select some categories that can stand for a broader range of products, like a sausage as an emulsion type for a wide range of emulsion type products.
Well, looking at the, for example, if it would be a chicken nugget, then you can also include the coating part.
Yeah.
And so you look at the substrate inside, yeah, but you can also then, if you think about the whole concept, maybe there's some more things you could do.
Yeah, good point.
Rick, I saw your hand.
Yeah, my question is, how can we combine different ingredients together? Because I see a lot of variables. So what are the methods here to combine all the ingredients of all the partner in here together, one product or something?
Danfo?
Well, I don't think we will develop one product, but we will go for a small range of product concepts. So we will not go to the final product, but we will focus on model systems that can be representative for different product categories.
Yeah, and for that model concept, we would like to develop kind of design rules, which combinations or what the combination of ingredients has to deliver as a total protein content, or as a not only the content of protein, but also the functionality of the protein.
Yeah, it's clear for me. Thank you.
Ewout?
Yes, thank you. What I really like about the idea is working with as raw as possible materials, and not the purification. So we're on the same direction with the microalgae, not to get just the purification out, but just as raw as possible. We already see it working also with the raw materials, with proteins and with fibers in there. So I really can follow the direction. What I'm looking for is I like also the work packages, but I want to have a sort of iterative process, a really quick run in a circle of possibilities, results, functional behavior, applications, and that gives a lot of new questions to answer in next steps. But I want to have, is it possible to have it in design in the project with some iteration steps? And that's how we have quick results in the first year and deeper results in 4 years.
Yeah, I love to build that together with you. And that's also why maybe Stacia later on will explain. We usually have each in a couple months a project meeting, but I can imagine that indeed in this project, because you also build on existing knowledge, that we really look at how to incorporate these kind of relatively fast feedback loops to select and to improve. Yeah. And I think let's think about a good way of also describing it in the proposal and the way of working. But yeah, I like it.
This is how we work as a small company, but so application would suggest of that one. But it really works fine to do quick steps and dive deeper where it's needed. So it's I feel here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I told you the goal was to hear from everyone, so if you don't raise your hand, you're going to get called on. Yes, Dirk, thank you.
Yes, hi. I think I have a relatively similar question as to Ewout. At Dyni, we're currently producing a protein product at like 50% protein from the spent brewer's grain. We already are producing it at a demo scale. We also already know quite a lot about our product. I think the first 2 working packages might already be kind of done on our part. Are there possibilities to already go further into looking what functional ingredients can we add to our product?
Yeah, I like that you indeed we have to think how to visualize it, but indeed that you don't wait for A and B to be finished to start with C. So I think you can already start with C. And it is also thinking about how to make sure that we also do the pre-competitive knowledge and find design rules or combination rules in this case. But I think it could really help that from day one we have already protein ingredients we can use.
Yeah, because I think we're also already working on some texturizing of the protein, along with, I think, some other products as well. So we're also kind of already working on it, but we need some help with optimization. So maybe, I'm not sure if it's a match, maybe we're too far ahead, but yeah, it's basically a question, how much can we adjust maybe the work packages, I guess.
Well, I think the idea would be especially for ingredient producers, that when we start to characterize and combine your ingredients with orders, we can also give you feedback on the functionalities and how they react in the matrix. And then to link that with product producers, what they actually want in the end. So it's also a feedback loop, like Eva already mentioned. So it continues process, and we will giving each other feedback, and we will adjust, and so that's how we work together.
Okay. Yes.
Raises for me a little bit the question, when we talk about those sort of functional maps, do we expect needing to functional map individual proteins, or is the focus of the functional maps on the combinations? And my thinking is that the majority of the effort is in the latter, because I think most of the proteins out there may be, I mean, surprise us, great, with something new, but my guess is that that most of the time is spent on the combinations, because that's what we don't, that's where the knowledge limit is for now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would also think that we have to make the link between the product properties and going back to the functionalities, and these functionalities can either be provided by the protein or by the macro ingredient in the starting materials, because we will not use protein isolate. So there will be the functionalities of all the ingredients, another component in the ingredient will also play a big role.
But these isolates probably will be the benchmark, I guess, because you would like to have some sort of benchmark, because you can create great functional maps. But I can imagine that if you want to funnel it a little bit, that you need to think upfront on what is the benchmark.
That's right. Yes. And then we also create a kind of window of operation. Certain benchmark with a very high purity. It has a window of operation where the functionalities can be in between, and that gives us a space for the impurity of the starting materials.
Yeah, maybe about the focus point of your project. As Stacy mentioned, the focus should maybe be on the combination, but then I wondered, what about all those different treatments? Do you already know then which kind of treatment, what is the best treatment for a certain protein? Or because if you focus on the latter, maybe you didn't get the best result after a separation or after a mild heat treatment. So yeah, 4 years is a long time, but if you choose like 4 raw materials and then 4 treatments, it adds up. So what's your vision about that? Do you have an idea where you will choose a limited amount of starting materials or treatments?
Yeah, honestly, I would say that is not what we already have in on paper at the moment, because that is really also what we would like to discuss with you. But you are right, we also have to think about limitations and focus to avoid that. You do everything on separate, but you want also to go to the combinations. I think for some ingredients we already know that, for example, toasting helps, so that is then already knowledge we have, so we don't have to prove that again. While for other ingredients, if we really see that the functionality is lacking and a certain technology can help, so we have to make a clever combinations and priorities with respect to that.
Arja, do you also envision a kind of funneling in the course of time through the project, trying to do something a bit more high throughput in the beginning?
Yeah, that's necessary, because otherwise we don't come to the end. Yeah. And that is really, therefore also the project meetings and the discussions with you will be very important in this project.
Sarah, are you satisfied that we've answered your question? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
still maybe a little bit vague, but it's always, I deliberately don't let them make choices on these 5 proteins before they've had a conversation with all of our interested partners.
I understand.
Ewout, you are first in line.
Yeah, we have now 4 meetings for these kind of project proposals. Every project has a functionality understanding part work package in those projects. So it's maybe more a program manager question here. Is a combination to be made with amazing ingredients that we have available from all the companies and parts joining, and combine all those functional understanding work packages together to make functional maps. Yeah, I hear the same sort of need in every project. So therefore, I was wondering maybe we can combine something there on a program manager's level.
Yeah, well, program manager happens to be my function title, so I think this question is for me. Yeah, I mean, you're right in the portfolio of projects developing this year. I mean, there is a lot where protein functionality plays a role. We have different end goals. For example, the Funny Pro project is really oriented toward egg and gelatin type functionalities, and we think that that's going to require the sort of Lamborghini process and the highly refined protein, whereas our goal over here is quite different. We're trying to go in the opposite direction. And I have to answer your question in 2 ways. Like the deep learnings that we have about how proteins perform, obviously, you know, we don't build that up in any given year. That's like a long-term learning. We've been working on protein functionality as long as we can remember. The level of exchange between TKIs while TKIs are running is actually fairly low, and that's not to do with the fact that we don't love that or wish that there was more of that, but to do with we have different partners in different consortia, and we have to protect the IP, the knowledge, and the sort of confidentiality of each of these consortia. That's very different than when we're working on a science grant project or an EU project, and dissemination is very sort of prominently the goal. TKIs tend to be rather protected, although we do aim to publish the findings that are sort of not commercially relevant or the sort of deeper learnings, and those we are happy to share between consortia. So yeah, it's a little bit the restriction of this model.
Add up to that,
Sure.
techno functionality is strongly related to the process parameters, the processing that we apply. So, and that is specific for product type that we have. Besides, we're also looking into the synergy of different ingredients when they are together. So it's not just a single ingredient.
And Nampoong and Ariette mentioned Plant Meat Matters, which is a consortium we love that has ended a couple of years back. There are learnings we can take up from that. There's another consortium, a Clean Label Plant-Based Foods Consortium that will end this year. So those sort of older projects where we have deeper learnings and publications coming out from PhDs who worked on those projects, those we can take and absolutely leverage as much as possible. Sorry, that was a very long answer, but I hope you feel well answered. Floor.
Yeah, so I had 2 questions actually. So I was wondering about the texturing process you have in mind. So I saw some examples from the SureCell. So I was wondering, is extrusion also part of the scope of the texture processes, or what do you consider there?
What we suggested on one of the slides is 3 model products, but also up to your input. One is an emulsion type. So there it is more an emulsion forming process. The second one is a burger type. So maybe you can think about partly high moisture extruded. And for that textured meat analog, we were more thinking about high moisture extrusion than SureCell, because high moisture extrusion is commercial available at large scale. And we hope, of course, also SureCell in the coming years, but we would like to focus on technologies that are now commonly used in industry.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for answering that question. And then the other question I had was related to the market availability of the protein. So what is currently in scope? So is it about proteins that are available on the market, or is that also not decided yet?
Now, it is not decided, and
Yeah.
personally, I would say let's broaden it to market potential, and so that we foresee that in the coming years the ingredient becomes available. So also a side stream or ingredients that are now only produced on a small scale. But that is very much in discussion with the partners.
Yeah. Okay, clear. Thanks.
This question has popped up a couple of times in our PKI discussions, and I can just share the observation that for the most part we wind up with like 60 or 70% of our ingredients being already on the market, but trying to hold space as well for things that might be coming out soon, so that we have some novelty or that we have some molecular variation in the proteins. But that's a sort of a decision that we steer on altogether. How much novelty do we want to have? I agree with the scientific teams that it's usually really helpful to include some space for things that are not on the market, just to be able to make sure that we maximize our learning potential. Yeah, sorry. Marco?
Yeah, and I don't have a question, more of a general comment related to the issue, because I think the complexity is also how to weigh the different factors that we consider, right? Because availability cost also for certain type of proteins are a bit of a tricky one, right, to estimate, and that's a known problem. So it's more of I think we need to be having a commercial head. I think some of us working for companies, but also in the also explorative head as well in our mind or in our head, indeed, because it is not easy. And I was mentioning about the sustainability as well, because this started with a why. Why we're interested in this is to make it more sustainable for us as well. And local, it does not necessarily mean more sustainable. And that's where the quality of the data, we know it's also very difficult. And I think a lot of emphasis should be start on that, right? Where do we start, which is material to select in the underlying assumption to the best of our estimates, I think.
Good feedback. Ariad, any response? You're just nodding your head. I think that just agreeing.
Yeah. And of course, this is not a project with a lot of effort where the majority of the budget will go to the sustainability analysis itself. So it is more input in the boundary conditions, the criteria, the evaluation.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I think that should be the right focus. However, that is a precondition, right? Because if then we ignore that factor sustainability, then it becomes say, okay, then it defeats the point of the whole study.
I completely agree.
So I'm not keeping very good track of who we've all heard from. Oh yes, Lisa Lotz, great. We haven't heard from Arvesta.
Yes, I was wondering, because if I understood correctly, is it a goal to combine all less refined ingredients, or is it also maybe a vision of the project to combine for one ingredient the less refined with a more highly refined one? What is the vision on that? Is to do both, or what is it?
Now, indeed, find combinations where we have the less refined with a very high functional one, and that could be of the same crop. Can you combine and isolate with a flower or something like that? But it also could be combinations with other crops, ingredients, side streams, and things like that. But it is really also what Nam Phong explained, looking at which kind of functionality you need in your ultimate sausage or your textured product or something like that, and how can you reach that functionality with a combination of highly refined, highly functional ingredients with more bulky ingredients, flours, other ingredients.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Good, thank you for the question. Robert?
Yeah, I just started the conversation just before I got picked out because I haven't said anything. I think it's a really nice project, but I think it's very large, and that's something I don't see it for me how we can get a good and former understanding of what will be the final goal, because for instance we produce quite a lot of vegan products with soy or pea based, and then use an isolate or a concentrate on this, but we try to replace this, for instance, in some of our products with either soybeans or a soy concentrate rather than a soy isolate, but then you have a lot more starch in your product, and you get a completely different product again. There are so many variables within the products we produce, but all the other products also in the market, that I just don't really see how we can focus and get a good product for everyone. If you understand what I want to say.
Yeah, I see your point, and I also think that thank you very much for this input, and this is also homework for Nam Phong and myself and my other colleagues to really think about how to make clever selections or combinations that we really achieve results within the duration of the project. And I think it's mentioned on one of the slides, we think about a project of maybe 3 years or something like that. So not a very long project of maybe 5 years or something like that, but really that already from the beginning we have results that you also can use. And it is about a clever selection of the ingredients and clever selection of the model products, the translation of the model product to the actual consumer product. I think that is probably not done in a project, but it has to be done by yourself, because you can combine it with much more ingredients and know the exact functionality. So it is also the selection together with you, what are good model products that give you insights in a broader range in your category.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Go ahead.
Yeah,
So-
and sorry. Please continue, Robert.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, so basically, what the goal is that we pick a few products from the start, then we basically make a good final product with these with lower ingredients, or not lower, but less refined ingredients, and then basically it's up to the factories themselves to grab the knowledge out of this project and then work on their own projects.
Yeah, I think like ideally would like to see at the end, for instance, you have one product model system, let's say the sausage, then you have certain hardness of a sausage rating from A to C. And then you have ingredient A with functionality, with its own functionality. When you combine with ingredient B with another functionality, you will get to texture 1. When you combine A with C, you get to texture 2. That kind of thing. So in the end, you have a map where you can say, okay, with this, we can get that. And that can be used for different markets because, I mean, when we talk about sauces, it's not always the same. I think in Germany, they will have different sauces than here in the Netherlands. So then we would like to provide that map. So we don't aim for one single texture or one single product with more a range.
Okay, yeah, that's clear to me then. Still, I think it's quite a large question. But
yeah. Yeah, because like for instance, if I give an example of cheese, then you have from soft cheese to hard and extra hard cheese. So you have to narrow the range yourself. But that's what we have to decide together as a consortium.
Great.
I mean, Robert, I think this is one of the things that we work on managing together, and what you typically see is the beginning of a consortium tends to go a bit broader, that we try to do the sort of broad screening. But having those model products as sort of dots on the horizon do give you very concrete things to work toward. So it's a combination of holding space for those sort of broader fundamental discoveries and developments, together with needing to work towards some very concrete goals with concrete model products. And that helps us manage the balance between the knowledge seeking and the solution delivery that we, this TKI subsidy is set up for that, right? It's set up to have fundamental learnings, but also really to do proof of concept.
Clear. Thank you.
And thank you for raising it. That's often in many people's minds a sort of open question. We didn't hear from Aroma and AB Mallory, if I am correct. Anybody want to jump in?
Yeah, with pleasure, if I may.
Yes, please.
I don't have any questions, but just a consideration, a bit in the same line as what Robert was saying. Functionality of proteins or combinations of proteins and other ingredients is not inherent to the product. It is related to the application where it's going. Just as an example, emulsification in a sausage model has totally nothing to do with emulsification in a, let's say, bread dough model. Yeah. That means that learnings from a sausage model is not of any interest to me when I want to apply these learnings in baking. Same with texturizing. Texturizing proteins for a certain application may be completely giving different results than what we are looking for as texturizing in baking. That means that and that is related to what Robert is saying, if you want to look for all the different ingredients and all the different models, then it will be a huge product. And that means that the selection of the type of products, type of proteins and ingredients, and the selection of the models, that will be relevant for, let's say, the whole project. And that's, even though it is maybe a bit broad in the beginning, as you said, it may result in the fact that some of the people here in the beginning may stop having an interest if there is a certain selection of a certain direction of the project. That makes sense. It is. I like the idea of the project, the setup of the project, the idea behind it, but the selection of what the project is going to do and what all the partners are going to do, that is highly relevant for, I think, for everybody.
Yeah. So one thing I just want to reflect in the process of developing the project, there will be discussions on the model systems, and in practice, what happens is, each B2C company that comes on board will have sort of one non-negotiable. Maybe for you, it's like bread dough. Like, for me to be on board this project, bread dough has to be a model system clear, right? I mean, in practice, that's the way it works. And for example, for AVOD, it's like, well, if algae is not one of your protein sources, this is not the project for me, right? But that's the journey that we go on together. And that's why we co-create the project, just to make sure that the key deliverable and priority for each of our partners is taken into account and is in scope of the project. And if we, along the way, if we see that we're missing something really crucial, then we can also reach out to other partners, maybe together, like, awesome, we have algae, we have spent brewer's grain, but wait a minute, this would be a much more amazing project if we had someone who is also delivering us soy. But that's the journey from now to September. But it's a very good point, because there will be non-negotiables for each of you. Clear, fine, let us know.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, I think I agree with what Martin and you just said, Stacey, and that's what I mentioned before on the benchmark. It's extremely important what is your benchmark, but it has to also to do with which kind of model products you choose. And I think it's indeed a journey with all the partners. What model products are important, or what proteins are important to incorporate in this one. Yeah, I really like the idea. It's really interesting. I'm also realizing that we That's something where we still need to digest all the information, but at the same time we don't have a real protein source, or we haven't not a certain source where we are interested in, or we have ourselves. So yeah, so again, I think Ariette convinced me to join this meeting, and at the same time, it's also balancing between all different other projects which might be a little bit more interested for Euromar.
Clear. And I will use that as a moment to say, well, I will come to timelines in a moment, but I want to invite any of you, if you feel that this is not a good fit for your organization, please tell me ASAP. I am happy to receive no's because it helps me have an accurate head count. So don't be shy. If it's not a fit, please just tell me. And then I don't spam you with emails for a project that's not a fit, and I have an accurate head count of who's where, so we can set up a project that's appropriate to the number of partners that it's shaping up to have. I don't know if we got everybody. Is there anybody with a burning question or comment that they want to share quickly? Otherwise, I'm going to go into the timelines moving forward. I'm not seeing any hands, so great. Good. So this will be familiar to those of you who are joining more of these TKI conversations because the timelines are the same for all of our projects. We are kicking off now with an info session, and the next 6 weeks are going to be really important because the next 6 weeks are the time when we need to co-create the project concept, and we are looking for 3 or 4 motivated company partners who want to dig in and co-create with us. So we'll have probably some small group discussions, but potentially also some one-on-ones to really dig into the content. That's a best practice that we have, that our scientists don't sit in splendid isolation writing a project proposal. They really want to get your feedback and thoughts. And as you've all said, we have some choices to make, and we want to do that together with you. So the next 6 weeks, we're co-creating the project content together with core partners. So I'm going to need on relatively short notice some volunteers to be core partners. And just like we did in the discussion, if you volunteer yourself, that's wonderful. If you don't volunteer yourself, I will chase you. By the end of July, we're going to do a go, no go for all the projects because we need to have a clear number heading into summer. We know doing headcounts in Europe is almost impossible while half of our people are on holiday. So by end of July, we need to know where you are with our projects. September 1st is our full proposal submission deadline. By then, we want you to be firmly committed. So we want you to have discussed it with your stakeholders internally and be, really ready to stand behind your company as a partner. It takes about 6 weeks for us to get the subsidy grant notification, and then we go into the contracting process, which is all kinds of headaches, and we all have to deal with our lawyers, but we always get there, and then kick off. We aim to kick off around April, May 2025. So that's it on the timelines. Any questions, any other questions about non-content things, about the process, the contracts, the timelines? Clear? No?
All clear.
Wonderful. All right. In that case, thank you very much for joining this session. I will be sending around the recording and the PDF of the slides, but give me a couple of days on that. And also welcome if there was a partner missing from this who you think would be an amazing partner for this project. Also welcome to recruit or to name their names. Please don't share the recording, but the PDF is something you are welcome to send around. That's all. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.